our first match will be Fnatic Raid Calls Todd. Oh, no. I'm sorry, he's not with Fnatic.
He is no longer with Fnatic.
Oh, it is Todd versus Incontrol. My bad.
Yeah.
And, of course, Evil Genius's Raid Calls.
Yes. Raid Call, once upon a time, sponsoring both of these players. Now, it's going to be a Protoss versus Protoss, starting off on Ohana. Andre, are you ready?
I'm ready to kick it off.
I am so excited. All right, let's kick it off. 3, 2, 1, play. And we're going to start our first series of the day between Incontrol and Todd.
It's a PvP, and as you said, it's going to be on Ohana. Really excited for this. I think Incontrol, he's that sleeping giant. You know, in StarCraft Brood War, he was obviously really, really skilled, winning a WCG in 2007, and also going on to just be a top performer everywhere else. He has been obviously not performing in the StarCraft II as well as he wants to, but he's been training a lot, and we'll see if that's going to pay off. He's down here in the bottom right-hand corner.
Yeah, and in the top left, we also have a player that's really underrated. In fact, Todd used to be one of the greatest Warcraft 3 players in his time, in his prime. A lot of people looked at Todd as one of these fearsome players in another game. And when Todd switched over, a lot of people had a lot of hype behind him because, of course, some of the best StarCraft 2 players are Warcraft 3 players. Stefano, Naniwa, all these real great people. Rotterdam.
Yes.
Todd is, of course, the blue Protoss in the top left, and he's using the tag Fnatic Raid Call Todd, but he's no longer with the team. Todd is, of course, searching for new opportunities. Now, Todd is good PvP. I've had the opportunity of watching behind his back when he came here for the NASL Sunday Showdown, and he's got a really good understanding as well of the game. So I'm very impressed every time I get to watch Todd stream, which you guys should do whenever you can.
Yeah, it's really, really amazing to see him play. As you said, when he was here at the studio, it was just a wonder. Just watching him, understanding what he was doing, why he was doing it. And I think he is the favorite person going up against Incontrol. Now, Incontrol is doing a double gas at 15. That has been the new style. You normally put just 2 gas in there. It allows you to just be flexible, but kind of like the Jack of all trades, master of none. So it's just a new style. I really, really like it, especially on a map like Ohana, which has a pretty small ramp. You can easily just stop pressure with sentries, or if they don't go any pressure, you can obviously transition to some sort of tech.
Right. And you know, Ohana is a map where it's very easy to just not scout as well. You can see both players are actually not even sending out their scouting probes until very late. Incontrol is the first to do so. Some players like Naniwa and even Sase don't even scout at all in PvP. You get the extra minerals. MC has also said that you don't scout so you can play greedy, and that's kind of what PvP's eventually settled into. A lot of players feel very comfortable delaying those first initial scouting probes.
Yeah, because you know, the amount of information that you can actually get in with the scout, what are you actually going to see? Well, it's normally pre-stalker timing. Are you really going to get that big of indicators before that actually happens? And the majority of the times, no. You know, these Protoss have their builds pretty set out, so it denies any scouting in this beginning stage. So pretty soon we're going to get to a situation where people are just going to be super greedy and not even prepare for actually scouting units coming in, just because it's technically obsolete. So they're just going to go with no units in the beginning stages and try to be as greedy as possible.
Yeah, and this is so interesting by both players, but having double gas, and you know, they weren't saturating it fully. Both of them had 2 probes on each geyser, and now starting to saturate a little bit more. That's just, of course, to ease their gas count because they're going for double stalkers. They don't need as much gas, but it still gives them the flexibility to add gas so they can add tech if they scout something. Now, Incontrol is placing a forward pylon, trying to see if he can get position, but Todd, he's being very diligent with his initial scout, and he's pretty much going to see exactly what he's expecting, which is pretty safe play here.
A couple of stalker fires just go off right there. Todd is just going to back up. But Incontrol should be the person, obviously, as you were saying, just pulling that trigger. He does have that forward pylon, so it gives him the ability to be a lot more aggressive than his opponent. We'll see 3 stalkers are out for Todd, and only 2 for Incontrol.
Ooh, you know, Todd actually went for a sentry, so he wanted to play this way defensive. You can see Incontrol placing another pylon. Oh, and it's 3 stalkers against 2. That is not a good fight.
No.
Incontrol needs to get out of there. He's going to lose a stalker?
Wow, that is a big loss right off the bat. Now, Incontrol does have 2 more stalkers behind this, but all of his chrono boosts actually went towards the gateways. That's really, really unfortunate. Todd is going to have a small little advantage with that. And look at this, an expansion goes down for Todd. So it will be some sort of... Wow, the robotics facilities are actually really, really close. So I was going to say Incontrol has to do some sort of damage, but I don't even think he can. He's following it up with the robotics bay. But I think defensive robotics bays are fine in this position for Todd. Of course, he doesn't know exactly, so he might be inclined to actually get an observer out immediately, which he does. But if he knew exactly what his opponent was doing, he would just throw down that robotics bay and just say, defend this push, and I win the game.
Yeah, I mean, Todd did see Incontrol's Robo, so that gave him enough information, and he killed a Stalker while preserving his count. So Todd's been able to play much more efficiently, even though one unit has died this entire game. Now, Incontrol is warping in a little bit more aggressively. He has it up here at the high ground, but of course, that's to keep Todd off of his pylon. Todd does have to play defensive. He's the one who has an expansion, and I love this from Todd as well. You see that he's just adding gateways, just trying to get massive units because he just feels very insecure. Some Protoss players try to add tech and play very greedy, but at this point, Todd is really just trying to make sure that he stays alive at this point.
What's so clutch right now is this one probe. The probe is actually able to make a pylon on the top ground if he doesn't actually scout that out. So Incontrol might actually exercise his advantage. Never mind.
That observer spots it just in time. That's, yeah, you're right. If Incontrol was able to get that sick flank, the sentry force, it would be pretty much null. The first Colossus is almost out for Incontrol, spending all his Chrono Boost, and he has no intention on expanding. I mean, he wants to really punish this fast expand, and this is kind of like the delicate balance of how many probes really should you make, and Todd's at a very good number. 2930 is a really good number just to make sure you don't get too far behind in the army's count.
Yeah, and it's important to note Incontrol's not getting the Thermal Lance, so this will be a mainly, gateway army, and then, of course, the Colossus to break any force fields. It really is the advantage of you have force fields, your opponent doesn't. So Todd, if he lets this get a little bit too far forward, he will be in a tough situation, but he does need to start trading soon because he doesn't want to be in a position where, Incontrol just starts to build and build and build on his army composition to a point where it doesn't matter how many units you have, Todd, he will always crush it.
The only difference in army right now is the few Zealots. That Incontrol has a few less, but he does have a Colossus as well. Both players have a couple of Immortals. Oh, but Todd's getting his third as well, and that third Immortal will add a huge boost to his army because he'll allow him to pretty much almost one-shot Stalkers collectively. And you can see Incontrol trying to force himself up the ramp. He has to be very cautious. The Guardian Shield pops as well. You can see Incontrol is just going to go for it. The Zealots are not even attacking from Todd. They're all caught by the force fields. Does Incontrol have enough to really break through here?
Yeah, I think Incontrol is in a great position. He does need to back up. He's letting way too many of his units actually take all of the shots. He should have backed up here and then just wait for another warp, and I think he actually stayed in there a little bit too long. The Mortals were able to just clean up everything. Now he really doesn't have a good response to that Immortal count. He lost just way too much, I think too many Stalkers from that, and he should just again, continuously build on his great army composition. Let his force fields do the work.
Yeah, I mean, Incontrol also did not have a good position because Todd had a superior concave Colossus at one point. Was really not doing much AoE, just pretty much hitting 1 or 2 units at a time. You can see Incontrol trying to see if he can just poke here and force Todd to engage in a bad position. He does put 2 force fields down.
Nice.
Making a nice choke. Oh, a great trap. And Incontrol is really doing it systematically, but he is almost out of force fields. Only has a couple left. But Todd's Immortal count is very, very high, and if that Colossus steps too far, it's just 2 shots and the Colossus is dead.
That's exactly right. But in the meantime, I mean, this Sentry force field build that Incontrol is doing is just so powerful. And if he can do this, very nicely done. Just segmenting one of the Immortals, that's exactly what you need to do. But as you said, is it enough? Are there enough force fields? He's actually committing. Losing all these sentries guarantees his loss.
He loses almost all of the sentries. No, he did. He loses every single one. And Incontrol now only has a couple of Immortals left. And that delicate dance may have gone too far. Incontrol has his foot stomped on. You can see Todd is pushing forward, but he has to be careful of the Zealots as well. This one Colossus is doing phenomenal damage. But of course, with only just a Colossus and 2 Immortals, there's almost no protection. And Incontrol has to back. But during this entire time, I mean, Todd's just been defending his ramp, really making sure he doesn't lose ground, and you can see that Incontrol does not really have an answer to these Immortals.
Oh gosh, there could have been a great force field actually killing 2 of those Immortals if those sentries are slightly up. But I think Incontrol staying in that battle for too long actually hurt him so much. I think if he had 5 sentries more in this position, he could just continuously keep doing this pressure. The Colossus is just so important, but he just stayed in there a little bit too long. Here we go, another round, and the Immortal is immediately targeting down the Colossus. Beautifully done. Now all of a sudden, these 3 sentries in the back are going to do so much damage. All Todd needs to do is make units and he wins.
It was good force fields from both ends. Incontrol trapping some of the Immortals, but Todd responding by force fielding Incontrol's army, and there it is, GG. Todd takes game number 1 in this best of 3 series, and he's only 1 more game away from advancing forward.
I mean, Incontrol was so close to actually winning that game. I really felt like if he just backed up at these key moments, he would have won. I talked about it in the game, but it's so unfortunate because they were it was in his grasp, you know.
Yeah, that's you know what, Andre, that's pretty much it. Just staying a little bit too long, and he had these openings that he could, but he got really anxious. It's very hard to tell though, because in those positions when you're playing up a ramp, vision is very fickle. I was gonna say finicky, because when you go up, you gain a lot of vision, but when you drop down, you lose a lot. So it's very hard sometimes to tell without the observer. Though. He did have the Colossus, but it's very difficult to tell from those positions, because I think with the reinforcement points, it's really hard. And Todd was setting up good concave, so
yeah, that's really important to actually note. But when you're in that position, I feel like you should play that almost like a PVZ. You just make sure you can get up to that nexus and then force field off, and then obviously just do as much as possible. But excuse me, it's not to take away from how well Todd executed that, making it very, very difficult for Incontrol to get those great force fields.
Yeah.